kiss my face.
He's welcomed back by all the muppets in the press room, and, you know, he deserves another chance. He doesn't his bollocks.
Oh, bloody hell, he's put me on the spot there.
Off the ball rules, baby.
Coming up tonight, we're speaking to Brian Mullen, who's one of the Rugby Sevens players who won't get the chance to play for Ireland again. We've got Richie Hogan in studio to preview another massive weekend of hurling, and we are doing a live phone-in to hear from football coaches, players, administrators around the country as the FAI's plans for an aligned calendar click into gear. That's tonight's Off the Ball after the news.
On 106 to 108 FM, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and Smart Speaker. This is News Talk, your IMRO National Station of the Year.
Good evening, the news with Alan Cantwell. Hamas says promises have been broken with the failure to allow aid into Gaza following the release of an American-Israeli soldier. Eden Alexander was handed over this week after being held hostage since the October 7th attacks. Hamas claims it was told by American negotiators humanitarian supplies would have been allowed across the border immediately. Professor Nick Maynards from the charity Medical Aid for Palestine.
I hope it means that there will be aid allowed into Gaza. It's over 60 days now since any aid has been allowed in, and people are starving there.
There's been a drop in the number of private landlords in the market. New data from the Residential Tenancies Board reveals there are 104,470 private landlords, a fall of around 1,000 since the end of last year. The figures also show that more than half of landlords who terminate tenancies intend to sell their property. RTB head Rosemary Steen says people are constantly entering and leaving the market.
So we're going to look at that quite closely and see how that trend is going when we report back in September. But it is just one quarter. And we know also from our research that we did in 2023 that we do have quite a high proportion of accidental landlords in that cohort. So these are people who've inherited property and have rented it for a certain period of time, but they don't intend to remain in the private rental market long term.
The Taoiseach says he's not sure the US government understands how international pharma companies work. Simon Harris was speaking on his way into a meeting of EU trade ministers. He's warned the US not to consider putting tariffs on the pharma sector while wider negotiations are still playing out.
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding from elements of the United States administration in terms of how the pharma sector works in terms of global supply chains. And I would have made this point when I met with Secretary Lutnick, that actually the EU and the US are very interdependent when it comes to the pharma sector.
Ireland is set to compete on the Eurovision semi-final stage in Switzerland. Emmy will perform her song Like a Party to a crowd in Basel. 16 acts will battle it out for the 10 remaining places in Saturday's grand final. Emmy and her brother share how they've prepared for tonight's show.
I think we both kind of just try to focus and just trying to realize what's actually happening because it's so surreal.
And this morning I put on silver underwear.
That's it for now. We'll have news again in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Fiesta, then siesta this summer with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Alicante, Malaga or Menorca.
This evening will be dry and clear apart from isolated mist patches. Lowest temperatures 3 to 9 degrees. Coolest inland, all with just light east to northeasterly or variable breezes. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
Very good evening. You're welcome along to Thursday night's Off the Ball. We're with you till 10 o'clock this evening, and we want to hear from you this evening because from 9 to 10 we're opening up our phone lines. We want to hear from football coaches, players, administrators, fans. Basically, what are your thoughts on the impending aligned calendar that's being started by the FAI, being rolled out from the start of next year? What are your thoughts on the possibility of summer football? We're covering it all on tonight's football show, and 0879 180 180 is our WhatsApp number, so you can drop us a message to call you back. You can drop us a voice note if you want us to play it out on the radio after 9 o'clock. Just get in touch on that number if you want to join the conversation. Before that, we're going to have Richie Hogan with us from 8 to 9 to look ahead to a couple of huge hurling fixtures this weekend. Cork versus Limerick is a sellout at the Gaelic Grounds this Sunday, and from 7:30 we are speaking to Brian Mullen. He's one of the Rugby Sevens players that was informed yesterday that the men's programme is being canned. So that is the lay of the land this evening. We will, of course, keep you up to speed on the golf as the evening progresses as well. Cameron Hill, hello.
Hello.
Nathan Murphy, how are you?
Hiya, lads.
So we will get to the golf in just a moment, but talk to us about 9 to 10. This is your idea. We're opening up the phone lines.
Wow, talking about distancing himself when the legal letters are coming through afterwards. Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. He was on his own.
I think it was a joint idea. You and I think we just had this brainwave last Thursday evening.
Yeah, I wonder where you got the idea. Friday nights at 10, Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, true. You have you've
that was my idea, by the way.
You've given us a good prototype, Cameron. So we're picking it up. There was just such a big reaction to the Gerard McDermott piece from last Thursday night, especially from people like listening in live between 9 and 10 that night. That was definitely overwhelming compared to a lot of pieces you do late at night on the radio. And we figure that there is a lot of strong opinions out there on both sides of this, and a lot of people who want to know more, and a lot of people who don't really know maybe what they want or what's best for their little pocket of the country.
And I think what I wanted to sort of get across was how wide and varied the opinions are, and how there are so many different issues, both for and against, in different parts of the countries. And it was something that was difficult to go into with Gerard McDermott last week because we only had a certain amount of time, but you could almost go through county by county and ask him and the FAI to make the case for or against. And while the FAI are pushing for this aligned calendar, the other sports calendars aren't necessarily aligned. So one of the issues we're going to hear tonight, I'm sure from people, is that it's going to put you head to head with the GAA in communities with a small population. It's going to be too much of a strain on coaches, on players, and that the majority will end up going with the GAA club rather than the soccer club. You'll hear a different argument, I think, in Dublin, where certainly at underage, the calendars are already aligned, where they both play off a similar calendar, GAA and football. Both of them break during the summer months, and both of them can somehow coexist at the same time. But the difficulty is where you have large clubs and a lot of leagues, and, you know, I coach under 12 level. I think there's 26 different leagues just for boys at under 12 level in the DDSL. There's about 3,000 kids involved in that. And they play 9 aside at the moment. If suddenly that was to become 5-a-side football, how do you, like, the logistics of sorting that out? How does that happen? And each week, if you're missing 3 or 4 players, how do you actually manage a league with that? So I have sympathy, and definitely my opinion on this has changed. Being involved in underage football again, sort of 25 years on, I would have been 100% in favour of moving as much as we could to the summer, because you're playing in the better weather. You know, we were out on Tuesday night playing a match at 22 degrees at 8 o'clock in the evening. Like, that's the good stuff. But you do also see that there's far less player availability already as you get into the summer months. And that's just one age group in Dublin. So if you're listening in, if you're interested, if you're passionate, do get in touch.
Definitely. And we'll try and represent as many different opinions this evening on the show as well. From 9 to 10, that's when we're going to do our hour on the aligned calendar. Let's kick things off with the Newsround and actually get an update on what the lay of the land is at Quail Hollow. And the Newsround is with UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action. What's going on, Cameron?
Well, not so good, Eoin. So Rory McIlroy is 10 shots off the lead following his opening round at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow today. The Masters champion signed for a 3-over par round of 74 a short time ago. The American Ryan Gerard is currently leading the way. He's got a 3-shot advantage on 7 under. 2008 champion Padraig Harrington is 2 over at the end of his opening round. Seamus Power on 1 over along with Shane Lowry. While Tom McKibben is part of the evening wave, he's due to tee off shortly after 7:30 Irish time.
How much of this have you been seeing today? It's not looking good from a McIlroy perspective?
No, he didn't drive the ball well all day. And this, of course, where he generally has it on a string. And this also a course where you can usually get away with not being that accurate off the tee. But he was very, very wild. And conditions were more difficult than normal. They've had an insane amount of rain over the last while. Scotty Scheffler's been he managed to birdie the last. He got back to 2 under par. And maybe that's more the number McIlroy is going to be looking at. They're playing together rather than the lead and Ryan Gerard on 7 under par. He was complaining about having a mud ball on one of the holes, which means it just ends up going absolutely anywhere. And again, that's because of the rain that was there. this is potentially just a natural thing. We sort of knew it was going to go one way or another. Rory back in his favourite golf course, all of the weight of the world no longer on his shoulders, and he comes out and he blitzes everybody. Or he has maybe something of a natural hangover from the unbelievable high of Augusta. He's played a couple of tournaments since then. He's done okay, but his driving just let him down badly today. And it sort of did last week as well, particularly in the final round.
Yeah, but that's the reason why McIlroy has been so unbelievable on this course, is that he's been brilliant off the tee by and large, and it does favour a long hitter off the tee box on this. Like we see him popping up on TV here, and I'd say that's probably the mud ball in question that you're seeing the replay of. And I don't know, like the easy kind of conclusion, if things don't go well for him tomorrow, is that maybe he needs a little bit of anger. He needs a little bit of negativity driving him on to bigger and better things. And the counterpoint to the come down from the Masters is, as you say, he's played since then. Like, he did all right last week. Wasn't amazing, but like all right for Rory McIlroy. Quail Hollow should comfortably be making the cut, should comfortably be in the top 20, probably top 10. Like, his record there of getting top 10s is insane. 9 top 10s from 14 starts?
Well, Rory McIlroy gave that great line when he walked into the press room after winning at Augusta. What are we all going to talk about next year? And the simple answer is Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
We're going to keep continuing to talk about him and analysing him in a way that we don't analyse anybody else. And you've touched on it there as one of two ways this will go. And I'm not sure if I go along with it, that sort of deeper psychological element of maybe this is the thing that's driven him on for the last decade, that when all of his contemporaries have fallen away, all of the other guys in their mid-30s have struggled to stay in the world top 10, and all of them have had big dips. Some have managed to come back, that he's always remained and consistently won 3-4 tournaments every year, with the exception of the majors. And the reason for that was he had this burning desire to win at Augusta. And now that that's gone, well, maybe that little bit is gone as well.
Or maybe the green jacket was actually just a small boss, and the big boss is the legacy of Seve Ballesteros, and an even bigger boss is the legacy of Nick Faldo, and trying to become the best European golfer of all time is something that's way heavier than one
I don't
green
think so,
jacket.
because he is the best European golfer of all time. He mightn't have the most amount of majors, but he is the best European golfer of all time. And I wonder, and it's easy to say now after a first round like this, and remember, he was 7 shots off the lead after the first day of the Masters, and he had that late double bogey, and we sort of thought he had thrown it away after starting well. And the golf course is obviously playing a bit more difficult than people were expecting. And think back to his first ever win at Quail Hollow in 2010. He makes the cut on the number that weekend, and he has that brilliant final round, 62. Welcome to the big time, Rory McIlroy. So he's certainly not out of this. But we are going to do a deep dive on McIlroy that we wouldn't do on any of the other leading players, because our expectations now are so high, and he's going to have to put up with this all summer, particularly when he's going back to Portrush for the Open Championship. And maybe this is the year where he got that one, and over the next couple of years he adds 2 or 3 more majors, and that's it.
But maybe this is just a tricky second album, and that we're going to see much more of a fight back. And this, and however this weekend turns out, will be the encouragement that maybe just tamps down people's expectations. Like, if Rory is really good and goes nearly this weekend, is there not a whole heap more pressure on the Open and continuing that form at Portrush?
No, because I think we probably now have a different conversation in this part of the world around Rory, where I think there's a real genuine love and respect and appreciation for what he did. In America, there's still split opinions because of everything that's gone on with Liv and maybe getting a bit too big for his boots. That there will be that element of, delighted to see a little bit of a comeuppance here. And, you know, on the difficult second album, obviously, that's always going to be a problem a month on. These majors are so condensed now. But I think the expectation was there because of the golf course. Like, it's the difficult second album, but he has the Beatles as his backing band here. Like, you can't miss.
Wow. Clip that.
Rory's going to come out and shoot 65 tomorrow or something like that, and it'll all feel very premature, any talk of where he's at mentally. I think the one takeaway from Augusta is, don't judge Rory until he's got 2 rounds in the bank, and let's just not write off this weekend just yet.
Yeah. And listen, he got over the line at Augusta. Let's not forget some of the things that happened on that back 9. He didn't
calling him a bottler,
crush the field. No, absolutely not.
Colin Rose a bottler.
And if there was a course, as I say, if there was a course he can come back from, it's this one. He'll look at that leaderboard, like 7 under par is a false lead. Ryan Gerard is a local boy. It's going to be a brilliant day for him. He's going to join that long, long list of players who've had a moment in the first round, but he's never won on the PGA Tour. He's still starting out in his career. It'll be the shock of all shocks. And we haven't had one in a long time in a major if he stays there. Even the group on 4 under par, like Luke Donald hasn't had a top 10 in about 7 years. He's only here because he's the Ryder Cup captain. Ryan Fox, last man in, won last weekend. He's in that group as well. Keegan Bradley, the other Ryder Cup captain, remarkably also on 4 under par. And Alex Smalley and Stephen Yeager, like these aren't figures who anybody was predicting. The ones you're looking at, I think, are Scheffler managing to come in with birdies on 2 of his last 3 holes to get to 2 under par. Remember, this is the top 3 players in the world playing together. All 3 of them had a double bogey at the 16th, which was their 7th hole. All 3 of them on a course that we thought they were going to rip apart. But there's a lot of decent players. The evening wave are just teeing off around about now. So, Bryson is just heading out. Let's see what he does.
We've buried the lead here. There's much bigger golf news to get to, Cameron.
Day 1 of the OFX Irish Legends at Mount Juliet Estate today. So Gary Murphy carded 68 to finish the day on 4 under par and in a tie for 6th. South Africa's Keith Horn holds a 1-shot lead on 7 under, while David Higgins is 1 over heading into tomorrow's second round.
It's our colleague Gary Murphy.
Yes.
Co-host of Golf Weekly.
Yep.
Playing down at Mount Juliet. Kilkenny native.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Ryan Gerard being the homeboy story of the weekend. It's all about Gary Murphy this weekend.
It is absolutely all about Gary Murphy. This is a 3-round event, so it's going to finish on Saturday. They decided not to go head-to-head with the PGA. I was down in Mount Juliet on Tuesday talking with Gary and Michael Campbell. 20 years ago won the US Open, and Gary's been on the Legends Tour for the last couple of years. He doesn't have a full card, so he was relying on an invite this week, and has had a little bit of a niggly back injury, just old age as he was putting it down to. And I know he was just desperate to go out and perform. There'd be a lot of, even just walking around with him in Mount Juliet, like everybody knows him. He's having to stop and chat to everybody. So there's a little bit of home pressure that comes with it. So I was delighted when I saw that he turned up on day 1, put himself in the mix. And I can guarantee you we'll have an emergency pod on Saturday evening, live from Langton's. If Gary pulls it off.
I thought you just meant full stop. I think just him getting to the finishing line is emergency pod worthy.
No, he's got to win.
He's got to win.
Okay. Gaelic Games, Cameron.
This Sunday's Munster Hurling Championship clash between Limerick and Cork has officially sold out, so more than 44,000 supporters expected at the Gaelic grounds for that round 4 encounter. Remember, a win for either side this weekend would ensure their progression to the knockout stages of the All-Ireland Championship. And we've round 2 fixtures for the All-Ireland Football Championship released today. So Saturday the 31st of May sees Cork host Kerry in Group 2 at SuperValu Páirc Uí Chaoimh from 4:45. Also in that group you've Roscommon taking on Meath at Dr. Hyde Park. The throw-in time for that one still to be confirmed. Louth travel to Park Esler for a Group 3 meeting with Down from 5:30. The evening game that day sees Tyrone entertain Mayo in Group 1, throwing in Omagh at 7 o'clock. Then on the 1st of June, that's the Sunday, Cavan host Donegal in Kingspan Breffni from 2. At the same time, Derry and Galway square off at Celtic Park, while later that day Monaghan take on Clare and Clones, and Croke Park hosts the meeting of Dublin against Armagh, both of those throwing in at 4.
This is where it all begins, Nathan. Mayo versus Cavan. This is where the resurgence from that Connacht final defeat cures itself, and the Mayo for Sam bandwagon begins.
Thanks for your support.
Question mark at the end of that, maybe?
I feel like you need the Mayo for Sam bandwagon. Your summer is missing something. You're going down to watch Kerry at the weekend. You're not yet enthused. You're almost back in your will I even bother turning up for the semi-final type phase. Whereas in Mayo, it's been a slow burner.
Yeah.
But still, Galway are a lot of people's favourites for the All-Ireland title.
How's that going down in Mayo?
Well, they haven't won it, have they?
No, they haven't won it. I'm just wondering what's that like, that there's a lot of hype around this Galway team and an expectation that they can finally break the Connacht duck.
Well, if they want tips in dealing with that hype, I suspect go elsewhere. Would be my advice to the players of Galway. No, look, we sort of knew before that Connacht final that losing it may bizarrely see you end up with a more beneficial draw. No offence to Cavan. I don't think there's going to be an enormous crowd in Castlebar at the weekend to see this. I don't think anybody's overly excited. Dublin Galway is the game that everybody's invested in. I think there's an assumption Mayo will make their way out of this group one way or another, and you just hope that you find a little bit of form and see how the draw all works out.
Yeah, I think speaking of Galway, I think Galway Dublin by distance is the Gaelic football fixture of the weekend. This weekend anyway, that should be I think everybody really wanted a bit of that. The Dubs this year, I don't know how many more Leinster titles over the next few years are not going to win.
It's in Salt Hill?
It's in Salt Hill.
Now, the weather's good, because I was thinking watching that Connacht final, and we've had quite a few of these games where the wind has been this massive factor, and you basically just try and build up a score, and then you get your opportunities to kick 3 or 4 2-pointers and see how quickly you can whittle it away. A game in Salt Hill, if the wind is properly blowing, I presume you play with the wind in the first half and you just try and get as far in front as possible.
Well, Mayo did the opposite in the Connacht final.
That went well.
It almost did.
But it didn't.
Well, you can't just judge that on the full-time score.
Well, there's literally nothing else you can judge it on.
There is. You can't just say it was a bad decision because because they lost. They might have lost by more if they had made the opposite decision. That's not how you analyse decision making.
It was honourable.
If you just look at the outcome, then you're doomed. Like every
Mayo went
decision
from
in life is bad
distant second to close second.
I think that was a very good decision by Mayo to play against the wind. They started very well. They gave Galway plenty to think about in that first half, and then they kind of had a bit of a target to go after, and I think they responded really well.
No, I think on home soil, you go with the wind in the first half. You build up your lead, you get the crowd on your side, and then you hang on for dear life.
I don't know if that actually
I'm struggling to understand your thought process of Mayo made the right decision, one that ultimately saw them lose the game.
Right decision, wrong outcome. That's what happened in that game. Anyway, Shane Walsh might not be available for Galway this weekend, so the wind is immaterial. If they don't have their main cheat code.
Owen's a man of science.
What about Roscommon?
I think if you were saying to somebody that they're going to be down in Killarney on the first round in the middle of the league, you'd be like, right, that is an absolute heavyweight clash. And then their league form kind of tailed off. Poor league final performance, not great against Galway, and it feels that the mood music has darkened a little bit around Roscommon. So they need to rediscover their round 4, round 5 league form to have a chance at the weekend, I would suggest. They may have gone down to Killarney in the first round and obviously hammered Kerry 2 years ago, so it can be done. So Roscommon need to get inspiration from their neighbours in Mayo, obviously. Where do you want to go next, Cameron?
Well, there's white smoke today at Cork City. They've named Gerard Nash as their new men's first team manager. The Kildare native had been working as an assistant coach at Swedish side Gaish, with previous experience coaching underage sides at Aston Villa. He succeeds Tim Clancy, who of course left the Leesiders shortly after their 2-1 defeat to Derry City in the League of Ireland Men's Premier Division last Friday.
What do you make of this?
Well, Gerard Nash, I think, was right in the mix when Tim Clancy got the job, and maybe could have taken it then, made the decision to stay at Aston Villa, where he was involved with their under-18s. The move to Sweden, I think the club is linked with Aston Villa. So he was obviously somebody that Dermot Usher, the Cork owner, was very interested in from the start. People have thrown out a lot of maybe the bigger Cork football people over the last few days, but Nash seemed to be the number one target right from the off. Vinnie Perth, by the way, was brilliant today in the League of Ireland podcast talking about, say, Tim Clancy's situation. And we heard from Tim earlier in the week of the lack of a football industry in this country, and when you leave a job, the nothingness that awaits.
Yeah, so that's out now, League of Ireland pod. With yourself, Vinny and Gareth. Very good. We do have live commentary, by the way, from
Bowes Shells.
From Bowes tomorrow evening.
First trip for Off the Ball to Dalymount Park.
Wow. I know.
Such bias in the office, we had to fight against it for so long.
Yeah, but finally Stephen Doyle has got his way, and he gets his trip to Dalymount tomorrow night. So we'll have live commentary of that from the show, coverage beginning from 7 p.m. Onto the rugby then. We're going to be covering this in a bit more depth from 7:30 this evening, Cameron, but you have more on the Sevens story.
Yeah, so as we mentioned yesterday, the IRF is scrapping the men's sevens programme at the end of the season. The women's sevens programme will, of course, be retained. Now, yesterday, former sevens captain Billy Dardis described the news as unbelievably deflating, and another former skipper has today said that the players can't wrap their heads around the decision. Harry McNulty captained the side that lined out at last summer's Olympic Games in Paris. He joined Gerard Gilroy and Darragh Smith-Naughton on Off the Ball Breakfast this morning.
Everyone's completely devastated. Some of us were involved from 2015. I'm getting messages from lads that I played with in 2015 that only played for a year or two. Just they can't wrap their heads around it. It gave them careers as well. Like it gave lads a resurgence. They were at the wayside and played with us for a bit, and then went and got contracts and played really well for their provinces straight away afterwards. And it really gave them a new lease of life. Really, we're not in it for the money, and you're not doing it to see financial successes. So I think that even showcases why this program is important, because people are putting absolutely everything they have into it because they love it.
Yeah, more on this story in about 10 minutes' time with Brian Mullen, who's going to join us in studio to talk about this. We should just briefly break away from the rugby for just a moment, because there is a breaking story in the world of football administration, which seems like it could be pretty significant.
Yeah, so the FIFA Congress is happening at the moment in Asunción in Paraguay, and there had been a bit of controversy in advance because Gianni Infantino had delayed his arrival because he decided to go to the Middle East with Donald Trump over the last few days and felt it was very important for football that he accompanied Trump on his visit to the Middle East. He then, unfortunately for Gianni Infantino, got delayed on his way back. There were some issues with his private jet flight from the Middle East. And a lot of the delegates at Congress have taken major issue with this. There's been something of a walkout, including the FA chairwoman Debbie Hewitt and the UEFA president Alexander Seferin are not sitting at the top table at FIFA Congress, making clear their displeasure at Infantino prioritising his visit to the Middle East, which delayed Congress by not returning in time. That coming from Martin Ziegler.
Right, okay. It'd be interesting to see how this one develops. Obviously, all the powers in football not overly pleased with the direction that Infantino is going. I presume there's going to be a huge amount of support in the room for him all the same, given the device-like grip he tends to have in that organisation. So we'll see how that one plays out. Do you want to bring us one more story, Cameron?
Yeah, why not? We'll talk through Munster.
Oh, I have to.
Or you don't, I mean, it's up to you completely.
Why not? No, they'll do it. We'll go through Munster's team for tomorrow because they have a do-or-die clash with Benetton on Friday in Cork, and they've named an unchanged side for that game. So scrum half Craig Casey will make his 100th appearance for the province. Jan Klein will play his 150th Munster game. I saw today Tom Farrell is starting at centre. He started every game since he joined throughout the season, so his 25th start for Munster this year. And of course, it's a farewell from a home front for Peter O'Mahony and Stephen Archer. They're both set to make their final appearances in their native Cork, while it also could be a final Munster game for Conor Murray if they fail to win and miss out on the playoffs. So a lot riding on that game in Virgin Media Park tomorrow.
All right, Cameron, thank you for that. Nathan, thank you. You'll be back with us again after 9 o'clock. Remember, our number is 0879 180 180, and if you want to join the conversation after 9 on the aligned football calendar that's coming down the tracks for Irish football, we'd love to have you involved. Just drop us a WhatsApp. We can give you a call back. You can drop us a voice note, and we'll try and get to all of your opinions between 9 and 10 this evening. Before all that, it's time for the cash machine.
News Talk's Cash Machine.
Now, there's another huge amount to be won in the cash machine this Friday. The number you need to know is €156,000 exactly. Text PLAY, P-L-A-Y, to 57557. That's 57557. And get your entry in by 3 p.m. this Friday. Then across the Go Loud network of stations, someone will get that call. If your phone rings, you have to answer it within 5 rings. Give us the exact amount in euro and cent, and you'll win that cash. So remember that amount one more time. €156,000 exactly. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50 plus your standard message rate to play. You're playing across the Go Loud network of stations, and terms and conditions are on newstalk.com.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
Advance your career in the creative industries with the postgraduate course at the Institute of Art, Design and Technology, Dún Laoghaire. Postgraduate courses are innovative, flexible and industry-focused, helping you grow your skills and advance your career. Learn from expert educators on flexible programs designed to fit around your life. Explore IEDT's postgraduate courses today. Visit IEDT.ie.
Mark was meeting his brothers later. They had the serious business of a stag weekend to plan.
Right, dig the trench for these pipes quickly, finish early, meet the lads.
Always ask yourself the question on construction sites, are you sure it's safe? Check with ESB Networks for underground electricity cables before you dig, and look out for overhead electricity wires when operating tall machinery. If in doubt, call us on 1800 372 999. ESB Networks. Stay safe and stay clear of electricity wires.
Renew your garden with fantastic offers from Jysk. We have a wide selection of products for your outdoor space. Right now you can save up to 55% on selected garden furniture. Jysk.
Scandinavian sleeping and living. Van insurance due for renewal? InsureMyVan.ie is Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Call today and see how much you can save with InsureMyVan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyVan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We need to talk. I just can't go back to the same hotel again this summer. I see the staff there more than I see my own parents.
Come on, we know what we're getting. And nobody makes drinks like Alejandro.
Too late. I've already started looking.
But the pool.
This one has 4.